welcome back to 10 with Ken. A lot has happened since our last episode. You may know that I've shifted my attention from the daily news headlines to this podcast. We've invested in new studio equipment and I've brought on board new research and directing expertise. I think you're going to notice a difference. Let us know what you think. So on to business. In this episode, we'll take a look at some recent news about gender equity in higher education. We'll continue our review of college rebrandings and name changes, and we'll take a look at a new plan for world domination disguised as altruism. Let's take 10 and take a look. A couple of related developments have all of us at Eduvation HQ thinking about gender equity this week. We'll go into more detail in a separate special report, but for now, here's some food for thought. For decades, women have been the majority in undergraduate classrooms across Canada, but some professional schools are still practically man caves. Engineering schools in particular are typically 70% male. Schools that achieve 30% female enrollment have bragging rights. This March, York's Lassonde School of Engineering announced a $1.5 million 50-50 challenge, and its aspirations to be the first Canadian engineering school to achieve 50% female enrollment.
Our goal at York Lassonde School of Engineering is to have half of our graduate be women engineers so that they too can change the world.
So far, the only specifics are that Lassonde will hire a new Assistant Dean of Inclusivity and Diversity, and that they will fund a local chapter of WISE, Women in Science and Engineering. But this high-profile effort seems like a bright idea worth emulating. More good news for academic women, although admittedly in the better late than never category. A few days ago, McMaster University announced that all female faculty members would receive a $3,500 raise this July to compensate them for a systemic bias that saw them underpaid by about $3,500 compared to their male counterparts. McMaster has committed to repeat the analysis periodically. Last year, McGill University completed a 13-year gender equity project reported to cost as much as $20 million. To comply with Quebec's pay equity legislation, McGill compensated some 2,000 current and former employees, in some cases as much as $80,000 each. So the bad news is we're still a long way from gender equity, in engineering enrollments or in faculty paychecks, and there is a measurable systemic bias against women in the academy. The good news is that there's a rising social demand to spend real money trying to fix it. Even governments are getting in on the act, but unfortunately, sometimes this is what it looks like when they're trying to be the opposite of sexist. And now let's step into the brand chemistry lab to continue our review of college rebrandings. In episodes 4 and 5, we looked at 19 community colleges that changed their visual identities. Some changed their names too, at least slightly, switching to a first name basis or dropping to merely initials. We wrapped up last episode with SciAst, which underwent a complete name change to Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Most higher ed institutions are extremely reluctant to change their name, abandoning decades or even centuries of goodwill and name recognition. But sometimes any name is an improvement. When Philadelphia's Beaver College changed its name to Arcadia University in 2001, incoming student SAT scores rose almost 60 points. Likewise, Japan's Kinki University has finally gotten tired of all the snickers at scholarly conferences and announced that in April 2016, their name will change to Kindai University. But here in Canada, most institutional name changes reflect a government change in their mandate, such as Saskatchewan Polytechnic's new status. There's no bigger example in Canada than a series of college redesignations in April 2008 in British Columbia. In a week-long swing of campaign-like political stops, BC's then Premier Gordon Campbell visited 5 colleges and surprised them with new designations and new names. University College of the Fraser Valley had been lobbying for university status for years and had changed their brand to UCFV, the initials, in anticipation of a shift. The new name, University of the Fraser Valley, wasn't a huge leap, but we had to work quickly to roll out a new identity to its campuses by fall. Malaspina University College had already wisely refreshed their visual identity to a logo that reflected its geographic location. which prepared it well for some visual continuity when its new name was announced, Vancouver Island University. Kwantlen University College was probably a bit surprised by its new designation as a polytechnic university, because historically its mandate had had little overlap with BCIT, the province's official polytechnic. Initially, Kwantlen used a simple word mark, but in 2011 launched a new brand identity featuring a sideways K, intended to suggest an open book, the wings of an eagle, Kwantlen's mascot, and apparently even the outstretched arms of a runner, symbolic of the Kwantlen First Nation. Bestowing university status on Emily Carr Institute of Art and Design was a lot less contentious. The new visual identity for Emily Carr University of Art and Design features a silver coil of wire, symbolic of the history of its North Campus as a former wire factory. Kids can be cruel, especially in social media, and there's probably no harsher critic of a logo redesign than a design student who didn't get the job. So Emily Carr students mocked the new logo on social media, but the institution stood by its new brand identity. In 2010, the Ontario government gave the Ontario College of Art and Design official university status. The institution began a series of consultations to determine how best to change its name accordingly. In the end, the institution opted for the name OCAD University. Award-winning designer Bruce Mao developed a new brand identity for OCAD based on the black and white windows in its iconic building, using a large black box as a window to display an ever-changing series of examples of student artwork. Subsequent ad campaigns for OCAD branded it as the University of Imagination. Meanwhile, in Calgary, Mount Royal College finally achieved university status from the province in 2010 after years of lobbying. Then-President David Marshall made light of the change in designation when it finally came in a YouTube video that showed him altering letterhead and business cards by hand.
I'll just take a minute and I'm going to tell you how you transform a college into a university. It's really quite simple. You just get one of these.
Eventually, a new visual identity was launched for the institution to replace its dated 1970s style icon. In Edmonton, over the years previous, Grant MacEwan Community College had progressively dropped the words Grant, Community, and College from its brand identity in anticipation of a similar change in status. When it came, they made a minor adjustment to their logo until a full branding process could be completed. In fall 2013, MacEwan launched its new visual identity and officially changed its colors from blue to burgundy. Next time on Fun with Brand Chemistry, let's take a look at a range of name changes and logo redesigns at religious colleges and affiliates across Canada. I consider it my job to monitor the higher ed landscape and keep my eyes on the horizon, watching for indicators of long-range change for the sector. One announcement last month that should really be on your radar comes from LinkedIn, the professional social networking platform that boasts more than 250 million users worldwide. For years, students have found LinkedIn useful for job hunting and alumni to stay in touch with their entire graduating class. More than 25,000 colleges and universities have established official pages on LinkedIn to stay connected to alumni, to run statistics on employers, and to reach out to potential mentors for their students. Last year, LinkedIn introduced university rankings based on the career performance of recent graduates. LinkedIn made it easy for students to add educational experience to their profile through a single button. But I think LinkedIn has now tipped its hand on its plans for global domination with the $1.5 billion acquisition of Lynda.com, an online training provider.
Today, LinkedIn is excited to announce our acquisition of Lynda.com. We're going to digitally map the global economy.
Okay, so like Facebook's social graph or Google Earth, but for the world's economy. Cool.
We're going to have a profile for every member of the global workforce. We're going to have a profile for every company in the world. We're going to have a digital representation of every job and every skill required to obtain those jobs offered through those companies. We're going to have a digital presence for every higher educational organization and university that enables people to obtain those skills. And we want to make it easy for every individual, every company, and every university to share their professionally relevant knowledge.
That sounds like a very clever business model, to crowdsource the development of data banks on employers, employees, and institutions, and then to sell advertising back to anyone who'll pay for it. I think LinkedIn needs a motto like Google's: don't be evil.
Our vision to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. The hope is that we can lift and transform the global economy.
That's a relief. I would have expected LinkedIn would be looking for a return on investment, but they're looking at it as a donation to raise developing nations from poverty and to get the unemployed back to work. But wait a second, they didn't need Lynda.com to do all of that. Why did they need thousands of online courses?
Skills is one of the final pieces of the puzzle. It's not enough to just standardize the data around the skills required to obtain a role. It's also important that we can actually help people obtain those skills themselves.
Okay, so LinkedIn can keep alumni in touch with each other, rank universities, it can promote job opportunities, it can scan resumes for prospective employees, it can determine what it takes to make your employees successful and what a prospective employee needs to learn in order to get there, and it can offer them the courses they need directly. It's a good thing LinkedIn has such an altruistic motive to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Because by replacing yearbooks, reunions, employment classifieds, headhunting firms, university rankings, and educational advisors, there's going to be a lot more people out there using LinkedIn to search for a new job. Thanks again for taking 10 with me. As you can see, we're experimenting with the format of this podcast, and I'd really like to know what you think. What's an improvement? What's not? What else could we be adding? Please leave a comment on my blog or YouTube channel, or drop me an email. If you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment to click that big red button and subscribe to our channel. I'm pleased to announce you can now subscribe to the 10 with Ken podcast on iTunes too. You'll find the link at 10withken.ca. As always, for exclusive early access to upcoming episodes, please subscribe to my free email newsletter, The Eduvation Loop. I hope to see you next time. Hey, yeah, that would be good. Let's see. So close. So close. I hope to see you next time. I hope to see you next time. I hope to see you next time. I hope to see you next time.